What is up, plant community? If you like my videos, go ahead and give me a like, share, and subscribe. It helps me out and it really helps the channel out. So, I seen that we are at 93 subscribers, and I really appreciate that, guys. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody who's leaving a comment, leaving a like, and subscribing to the channel. I really do appreciate it. So, my goal for this year is to, by the end of this year, or maybe even not by the end of this year, hopefully I can reach 100 subs. That's my goal. But I appreciate everybody who's on this channel and liking my videos and sharing them and subscribing and leaving comments here and there. I really do appreciate you guys for that and for watching my content. So, this is a bit of a new thing aside from all the updates and everything like that. Now, I usually don't do this. I usually think to myself on this, but I kind of have a theory because I'm into prehistoric things. I've always been into prehistoric things. Is so in the prehistoric era, if we go into North America back then, all the way to the Triassic and Jurassic time frame, there was palms growing all over North America at the time. Now, these particular palms included things like the Tranchocarpus fortunei and maybe in the middle of the state, Chinese fan palms. But fan palms have been found all the way up going into Canada and Alaska. So my thing is I never understood how a palm like this, or even like this, or even majesty palms, whatever, your zone pushing, can potentially just take the punishment and go on and be boxed up, basically, with no light whatsoever. Like, the most light that they might get is if they're in like a greenhouse type of thing. Like, say if I was going to build a greenhouse around my garden areas. Okay, cool. But then, they still got light coming in through there. But what really gets me is when you box them up with like no light whatsoever, and they're just sitting there dormant, not doing nothing, and you basically have them all boxed up, no light. And then to solve it all off, some people, if they do put a cold frame around them, they wrap them up, all the fronds and everything. And the only ambient light coming in is, if they're not in a box, is, and just a cold frame, kind of like a greenhouse, is the light coming in from the top. So I've always questioned how these palms manage to survive that and be just perfectly fine with it. Well, and one day I really started thinking hard about this. I just sat down and was like, man, how do they do it? All right, sorry about that. My dad was wanting to talk to me about dinner. Um, Anywho, so, well, we have proof that all these palms grew everywhere in North America in the Triassic and Jurassic time frame. They were found fossilized in places like in Canada, Salt Spring Islands, and Alaska. Now, that's pretty far up north. So, we know they spread there. Even some of the shrubbery like palms, like needle palms, for example. So how did they get there all the way up that north? Well, how they got there is, of course they spread. Eventually it was just warm enough for them that they spread. But how can our palms deal with what we dish out to them if we're zone pushing them. Well, my theory is if these palms did spread, gradually spread, like, most plants do, whenever it's warm enough, or they can adapt and change. So my theory is that these palms had to adapt to their environment slowly but surely, which is something we see in nature all the time. And so plants evolve and change differently to their environments. The best way we can look at it is we can look at the um paper bark um uh crap, what's the name of that? Okay, after pausing the video, I thought about paper bark birch. Oh man, I'm not good with all this scientific stuff sometimes. And the silver birch. They're both birches, but yet they've adapted differently. The same thing could be said for palms. Each palm has adapted differently over the course of years, thousands of years even. So, how can our palms possibly survive that? Well, my theory is this: if we go all the way up north, even back then, if we go all the way up north, these palms had it to where during the summertime it was light constantly, nothing but daylight, nothing but sunshine. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning, nothing but sunshine. But during the winter, nothing but darkness. Just absolute darkness, nothing at all. And that's where I think that these palms can naturally deal with that and be okay with it. Is because of that simple adaptation back in those times that allowed them to survive. Now, I'm not saying that this is true or that this has scientifically been proven. I'm just giving out a theory on how they might be able to do it. And my own thoughts. I mean, people do it with cycads, like the Japanese cycad and the Dioon spinulosum and tree ferns. And all more than likely had to adapt and survive. I mean, even the queen palm could take a little bit of cold. The majesty palm, they all had to have some form of adaptation to be able to do it. I say the only one from that era that hasn't been able to do so is the coconut palm. And I'm sure all that did is just sat and wait until it was finally warm enough that it could grow. Or probably just wasn't affected like the other palms that had to eventually adapt to this. So, that's my theory on why certain plants that we bring into our gardens, like the fan palms, if you're in a zone 6, 7, and 8, or if you're in a zone 5 or 4, it's going to be way more harder to zone push your palms, but it can be done with the proper protection. But considering on how much darkness that these palms take if we zone push them, some of them don't even get no light at all. Some of them are just, like I said, put in foam boxes, covered in lights to maybe keep them warm, and no light until summertime. Now, that would be, if we did that, considering the climate of back then, where it was a little bit warm, but not so warm to where it didn't snow, it would make sense that these plants would be fine with that type of condition, being completely dark. Because even back then, it was still the same ordeal as it is today. With Alaska, some parts of Canada, if you go way up north, and Salt Spring Islands, I'm not too sure about, because I don't know their actual climate. I just watch videos on it here and there. But with that being said, that is my theory on why certain plants, like the palm trees, can adapt to it. Why some even go into a dormancy. Like, for example, the queen palm is going into a dormancy. It's gone into a dormancy. This is the last frond that has, well, survived. And it's partially my fault. Um, the drainage holes is quite high, like I explained in the last video. But it's gone into dormancy, and it probably won't really give up this spear until spring. But that's my theory. Again, I'm not saying it's right or anything like that. It's just one of my thoughts, basically, going out there to you, of maybe how these palm trees are able to do it, and able to successfully do it. And why, more likely, if you're in a zone like me, you're better off to choose the fan palm species that could take a little bit more cold, like the European fan palm, Trachycarpus, some of your shrubbery palms, like the needle palm, even Chinese fan palm if you can protect it. But that's my theory, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a good rest of the day.